What's up, you guys? And yeah, wow, what a whirlwind of news we have this week about Star Wars, and I don't think it's gonna stop because this book that is available now for purchase, Howard Kazanjian and Producer's Life, Marshall Lucas made a scathing review about the prequels and now about the sequel trilogy as well. We're gonna talk about the sequel trilogy and what Marshall Lucas said in just a few moments, but now we have confirmation that Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill, commented too about The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and even Revenge of the Sith, the prequels all together. Stick around till the end of the video because we're going to be discussing Mark Hamill's comments in detail. But just to give you an idea, this all started because of Marshall Lucas's comments. So you can arguably say the biggest member of the Star Wars family does not like the prequels, and that is Marshall Lucas, who won an Oscar for editing the original Star Wars, which then became Star Wars A New Hope in 1977. She edited the movie alongside Paul Hirsch and Richard Chew, then returned to co-edit Return of the Jedi, and she went uncredited on The Empire Strikes Back. As you all know, Marshall Lucas is the former wife of George Lucas. They were married between 69 and 83, so in this book, Marshall revealed that The Phantom Menace was so bad for her that she cried after she saw the movie. Not invited by George Lucas, by the way. This can give you an idea of where she was in her heart and mind. She went on to say that George, in his heart and soul, is a good guy and a talented filmmaker. She went on to say that she wished George would direct different movies, not these Star Wars movies, but when I went to see episode 1, I had a friend who worked at ILM who took me as a guest to a preview. I cried. I cried because I didn't think it was very good, and I thought he had such a rich vein to mine, such a rich palette to tell stories with. He had all those characters, and she continued by saying, I thought it was weird that the story was about this little boy who looked like 6 years old, but then later on he's supposed to get with the princess who looked like she was 20 years old. There were things I didn't like about the casting, I didn't like about the story. It was a lot of eye candy, aka CG. As we've discussed in a previous video, I mean, first of all, when she went to see The Phantom Menace, she was not in her right state of mind because George did not even invite her to the premiere. She went through a friend that worked at ILM who probably showed her the movie secretly, because if George did not invite her, and if he ever found out, this would have been a huge problem for that person working at ILM. Firstly, most of us by now love the prequels. I grew up watching the prequels and the original trilogy as well. While the original trilogy is one of the greatest trilogies ever made, not only in Star Wars but in general, in movie history, the prequels, if you were a kid, were not that bad. I mean, I don't know what people felt as adults. I know the reviews from the critics were not that great, everybody criticized them, but they did make a ton of money, and the kids that grew up watching them love them to this day. I mean, as I said, meme culture would not be where it was if it wasn't for prequel memes, right? So Marshall Lucas did not stop there though. She even went on to continue about the sequel trilogy that now Disney is heading. She went on to say that Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams don't have a clue about Star Wars. They just don't get it. She went on to say J.J. Abrams is writing these stories, and when I saw the movie where they killed Han Solo, I was furious. I was furious when they killed Han Solo. This is definitely a moment for me where I understand that Marshall Lucas either is biased or is not really realistic. I mean, Han Solo was going to die in The Force Awakens, whether J.J. Abrams wrote it or not. They were lucky to get Harrison Ford back as it is. He was not boastful about the Star Wars franchise at all during his years. They paid him a boatload of money to go back to Star Wars, and he was going to die regardless. As far as the sequel trilogy, yes, we all know that not all of us are content with what happened. They could have taken the story to a whole new level, made it a big, grandiose trilogy as well, but they missed their opportunity and it just went by. She is right when she says that Star Wars is a rich palette to tell stories with. This is exactly what the sequel trilogy was, not the prequel trilogy. I think if she reverts her criticism to the sequel trilogy, then it would make much more sense. Of course, not to be outdone, Mark Hamill had to talk about this as well. So listen to this, guys. Mark Hamill did actually went on to defend the prequels. As part of an interview for the J.W. Rinsler's just published book about The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, film producer Howard Kazanjian, in this same book, Mark Hamill revealed that he was impressed with George Lucas's The Prequels, including The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. Now, mind you, Mark Hamill did not participate in the prequel trilogy at all. He was not even in a single frame in those movies. The only time we see Luke Skywalker in the prequels is in mere seconds when Obi-Wan is holding him alongside Padme and when he delivers Luke Skywalker to the Lars homestead. Mark Hamill went on to say that, "I was impressed the prequels had their own identity. They were criticized because they were exposition heavy and more cerebral, probably. Like George Lucas said back in 1976, Star Wars wasn't as commercial as it is today. It was a darker story. But in the age of social media today, I mean, people's voices are amplified," says Mark Hamill. "I'm shocked at how brutal they can be, not just in the case of Star Wars films, but across the board." So me as a kid watching the prequels, I love them even till today, despite their differences with the original trilogy. Here you can see an adult, a full-grown adult who actually was in the original trilogy, portrayed the main character of Luke Skywalker, actually defending and liking the prequels too. Because Mark Hamill understood what George Lucas was trying to do with The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, ultimately Revenge of the Sith. He was trying to create a whole different perspective and a whole different world with the prequels. He wasn't going to go back to the black and white, good versus evil that the original trilogy portrayed. This was a more of a gray area type of trilogy, somewhere where the good and the bad is basically invisible, the divide is ever more increasing, and the prequels are weird in that way that are representative of today's modern politics and everything. We see this in real life today, how the prequel trilogy actually went on to predict kind of many things that are happening today, the corruption of the Senate, and so forth. And Mark Hamill knows that George Lucas understood this even back then. So yeah, it is in the history books. Mark Hamill defended the prequels and actually likes them for what they are, their own thing and their own identity. They did not rely on the original trilogy at all. So what did you guys think about Mark Hamill's comments here? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, leave a thumbs up down below, subscribe for dailies. Now you can have an awesome day, Star Wars fans. I'll see you in the next video, and may the Force be with you. Until then.